What would drive a king to defy the Pope, split from the Catholic Church, and marry 6 different women? Power? Lust? No, a single, desperate obsession: to have a son. This is the twisted, fascinating story of King Henry VIII, a monarch whose fear of dying without a male heir changed the fate of England forever. Henry VIII wasn't always the tyrant history remembers. Born in 1491, he was the second son of Henry VII and Elizabeth of York. Young, athletic, educated, he was the ideal Renaissance prince. But that image would fade as his obsession with producing a male heir consumed him. When his older brother Arthur died young, Henry became heir to the throne. And with that came responsibility to ensure the Tudor dynasty would continue. His father's hard-won crown could vanish if Henry failed to produce a male heir. That fear haunted him for life. In 1509, at just 17 years old, Henry married Catherine of Aragon, his brother's widow. The union was strategic to preserve an alliance with Spain. But for Henry, it was also romantic. Catherine was graceful, pious, and intelligent. For nearly a decade, they were happy. But beneath the surface, there was trouble. Catherine gave birth multiple times, but only one child survived. A daughter, Mary. No sons, no male heir. And as Catherine aged, Henry grew impatient. The idea of dynastic failure began to terrify him. In Henry's mind, the problem wasn't fate, it was sin. He convinced himself that marrying his brother's widow was cursed in God's eyes. He needed an annulment, but the Pope refused. Because Catherine was the aunt of the powerful Emperor Charles V. So, Henry did the unthinkable. He broke from the Catholic Church. With the help of Thomas Cromwell and Thomas Cranmer, he established the Church of England, placing himself at the head. In 1533, he declared his marriage to Catherine void and married someone new. Enter Anne Boleyn, the woman who changed England forever. Witty, ambitious, and politically savvy, and refused to be Henry's mistress. She wanted to be queen. Henry was captivated. Their courtship was scandalous, their marriage revolutionary, and gave birth to a girl, Elizabeth, who would one day become one of England's greatest monarchs. But Henry was furious. Still no son. As Anne suffered multiple miscarriages, Henry's love turned to suspicion. He accused her of adultery, incest, and treason. In 1536, Anne Boleyn was executed, beheaded with a French sword. It was a gruesome end for a queen who had risked everything. Just 11 days later, Henry married again, this time to a quiet lady-in-waiting named Jane Seymour. Jane was everything and wasn't, demure, obedient, and conservative. And in 1537, she succeeded where the others had failed. She gave Henry a son, Edward. The king was overjoyed. But the joy was short-lived. Jane died just days after childbirth. Henry mourned her deeply. In his mind, Jane was the true queen, the one who gave him what he wanted most. He would later be buried beside her. But he still needed another wife, for political alliances and maybe even another heir. In 1540, Henry agreed to Mary of Cleves, a German noblewoman, based on a flattering portrait. But when he met her in person, he was horrified. He claimed she looked like a Flanders mare. The marriage was never consummated and quickly annulled. Next came Catherine Howard, a teenager and Anne Boleyn's cousin. Henry, now obese and ill, was enchanted by her youth. But Catherine had secrets, affairs from before and during her marriage. In 1542, she was executed for adultery. Finally, Henry married Catherine Parr, a twice-widowed woman of intelligence and tact. She acted more as a nurse than a wife, tending to Henry's failing health. She also reconciled him with his daughters, Mary and Elizabeth, setting the stage for their future reigns. By now, Henry was physically and emotionally wrecked. His once handsome figure was gone, replaced by sores, ulcers, and rage. But he had what he wanted, a male heir. Yet, ironically, his precious son Edward would only rule for 6 short years. Edward VI died at just 15. The Tudor dream of a male-led dynasty crumbled. Mary, then Elizabeth, would rule England far longer and more successfully than any Tudor man. Henry's obsession had been for nothing, or so it seemed. But the damage was done. Henry's personal desires had reshaped England. The church, the monarchy, and society were all transformed by one man's quest for a son. 6 marriages, 2 beheaded queens, and a religious revolution, all because of an obsession. His break with the Catholic Church led to centuries of religious conflict. Monasteries were destroyed. Priests were executed. The balance of power in Europe shifted. And it all began with a king who couldn't accept daughters as legitimate rulers. Ironically, the daughters he dismissed became legends. Mary Tudor, the first woman to rule England in her own right. And Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, who ushered in a golden age of exploration, arts, and power. Henry VIII's story is more than just one of marriages and divorces. It's about pride, fear, legacy, and the destruction that comes when absolute power meets unchecked obsession. Let's not forget the women, brilliant, strategic, and tragic. Catherine of Aragon, who fought to the end, and Boleyn, who gambled and lost. Jane Seymour, who died giving life. Each woman shaped England in her own way. Some were pawns, others players. But all 6 wives paid the price for one man's obsession with a son. Their stories are not footnotes, they are the heart of Henry's legacy. His reign, though powerful, left a trail of broken alliances, broken marriages, and broken lives. Yet his name is still one of the most recognized in world history. Because he changed the game, for better or worse. Imagine a world where Henry had accepted Elizabeth as heir from the start. No split from Rome, no bloodshed, but then perhaps no Elizabethan heir either. History has a strange way of twisting tragedy into destiny. In 1547, Henry died, aged 55. Bloated, paranoid, and alone. His dream of an unshakable dynasty was already cracking. But he had ensured one thing: no one would ever forget his name. Even today, his story is told in classrooms, on stages, and in films. Because it's more than history. It's a psychological drama, a royal soap opera, a cautionary tale about obsession, legacy, and the fragility of power. From the young, dashing king to the cruel, paranoid tyrant. Henry VIII's transformation reminds us that even the mightiest can fall when driven by fear. So the next time you hear about Henry VIII and his 6 wives, remember, it wasn't just about love or lust. It was about a throne, a name, and a desperate attempt to control what no man truly can, fate. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. We bring you the untold, dramatic, and often dark stories of history, stories that shaped our world. Until next time, stay curious,